Hey everybody, it's me, KD. It's Sunday. I'm back for another episode of Girl on Fire. Today, I'm lucky enough to have with me Lesfic author Jax Myers. Say hello, Jax.
Hi, I'm also a very admitted spicy wuss. So,
Yes,
the
this should
other
be
day,
interesting, everybody. We actually toiled over what hot sauce to do. I was trying to get her to do a little bit hotter, but she's like, no, 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 no. I'm not going to be able to do it. So we ended up with, as you saw on Twitter, uh, Smokin Hot Date, which is actually
yep,
a local hot sauce to her. So,
yeah,
which which is very interesting. So, I mean, from the ingredients and everything, it sounds really good. I'm excited to taste it. I actually have a couple of other ones from this company, so that I'm eager to taste eventually as well. But this is a chipotle type hot sauce, so it's not going to be high in heat, but they usually have a lot of flavor. Um, for people who don't know, chipotles are smoked jalapenos, and they're deeper in flavor, and it brings out the sweetness and a little bit more heat than your regular jalapenos. This one, as a matter of fact, has chipotles, dates, vinegar, onion, garlic, and spices. So it's pretty simple, and it has dates in it. So I'm interested to see what that's gonna taste like. So I haven't even opened this all the way, but Jax is gonna do a taste with me.
yep.
Hopefully she won't cry with this because
Nah,
it's a very
it's
wussy hot sauce.
yes. It does claim it's only a medium,
Yes,
so there's
yes,
also
yes.
that. So,
Yes, we'll see. We'll see.
but I'm
It
usually good with
it smells
chipotle.
good. Okay, I got my shot glass, everybody. Oh, and if you've noticed, I'm changing the format a little bit.
Ah,
um, Ray Magden actually gave me the idea when I was talking with her last week. She was like, aren't we supposed to do the hot sauce first? And then you ask me questions. So where I'm all, like a little off keel. And I was like, oh, why am I not doing that? After we got off, I said, start doing that. I said, that would be great. So
right.
that's what we're gonna start doing. Okay.
That works.
So I got my hot sauce. She has hers. I got my shot glass.
Yep. I'm not even doing a little wussy amount. I'm doing the spoon full, like,
Uh,
because I know it's not gonna be horrible or anything, but
No. See, I'm putting a little bit more than what I usually do because I do the super hot, so I got a little bit
yeah,
more of this
exactly.
one. So
Yep.
I'm eager to taste it. It smells good. I'm interested to see what it tastes like with the date. That's interesting.
Exactly. Like, it is interesting. Like,
What do you think?
it's weird because it's got like that sweetness for sure.
Yeah,
There's a lot
I've
of
never
spices
tasted
in it.
that
Like,
before.
there's just a lot of different spices in it, not just like, hot and whatever, but it's like there's a lot of like variety to it. I don't know. I don't have good words for this stuff. But
It's not hot at all, everybody. I'm
yeah,
not getting any heat from it whatsoever.
and see, so for wussy people, I do get some heat. Now
I'm
I'm
not
also
tasting
not going,
anything.
oh my god, I have to drink immediately.
So,
But
yes.
it tastes good.
It does. It's interesting. I don't think I've ever tasted a hot sauce quite like it. So for
Yeah.
wussies who want to try something, Smokin Hot Date from Cooper's Small Batch. Um, yeah, it does have an interesting flavor. It has some sweetness to it, big time. You take the smokiness is like an aftertaste.
Hmm.
You get that like on the back of your tongue. Hmm.
Yeah, it actually reminds me a little bit. There's this restaurant that's in Colorado Springs
Uh-huh.
called Rasta Pasta, and it is Jamaican pasta. So
Really?
there's some similar spices, I think, between what they use there and what this
Mhm.
is, because this reminds me a little bit of it. Like, there's like the Jamaican stuff is like has this really deep like spice profile to it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like like their marinara is like so much more rounded than like a
Oh my
normal,
God, I
like
bet it
Italian
is.
marinara. It
Uh-huh.
is amazing. Like this restaurant is killer. If anyone goes to Colorado Springs, you have to go to Rasta Pasta, and you'll get leftovers because it's huge portions. It smells phenomenal. It's such an amazing restaurant.
That sounds like that place in Asheville called 9 Mile that I
Mm-hmm.
actually mentioned in my book. Oh my God,
Oh,
they
right.
have like the in Big Girl Pill. They have
Yeah,
like the best pasta dishes, and it's kind of like a Jamaican fusion type thing. Oh my God, it's so good, and the tastes are so varied. I mean,
yeah,
it goes from fish to chicken to just to vegetarian to vegan. I mean, so they have like
yeah.
a range of things. I mean, and it's, oh my God, everything is so good.
That sounds
So,
amazing.
oh, I'm that
Sounds
if I
phenomenal.
ever get back to Asheville, that's going to be the first place we go to eat. And actually, me and my wife have been talking about going to visit, eventually now that things have calmed down a little, but I would rather wait till things calm down a little bit more before we take a long trip like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was interesting. I don't know exact. You know what? This will be a good breakfast hot sauce though.
Yeah.
Not on eggs, but like if you do like fruit compotes or something like on waffles or
Hmm.
something like that, that would
Okay.
mix in great with it. Like any kind of
Yeah.
berry compote. If I do like an apple type thing sometimes with my waffles, that will go good with that too. It doesn't have heat, but it has a depth of flavor that will kind of add to things like that. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for just something, it will be good on like if you like taco, like mild flavored tacos. That will
Yeah.
give it a nice little kick too. Like either chicken tacos or regular beef tacos, maybe even pork, types. It would be good with
Yeah.
pork as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Pork does well with sweets, so
Yeah, yeah,
that
definitely
probably
good
makes
with
sense.
pork. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife
So
was saying that for her, like she was like she could see using it in like chili, as like just to add to the flavor profile, not as
mhm,
the main spice.
mhm.
And even like her baked beans, because she makes baked beans,
That would
and
be perfect for that.
yeah,
Yeah,
she
definitely.
uses sweeter sauce. Her beans are a little sweeter. They're
Uh-huh.
not the total savory side. And that could be it. It'll add. So we'll be playing with this one for sure. And I know like she's probably going to get the they have a sample pack that's got like a little 6-pack, and I'm sure we'll
I
be getting the
saw
sample pack
that. I
for
saw that.
Christmas.
Yeah, I
So
started to get that, but I was like, oh. And they have a white sauce too. Did you see that?
I didn't pay super close attention. I noticed they have like a little 3-pack that's like their fruit-based sauces, and then
Yeah,
they've got some other ones, and yeah,
they have some
there's
interesting
quite a few.
sauces. I do want to, and I got it fairly quickly, so they ship pretty quickly though, especially with our snail mail at the moment. So I got
Right.
it in like maybe 4 days after. So
Nice.
yeah, but everybody, this is a good hot sauce. I mean, for wussies and pussies, this is for you. It's got nice flavor. For me, it wasn't hot at all. I mean, none whatsoever. I didn't feel any heat, but there's a ton of flavor in it. So if you just like flavor a little bit of like a complex flavor on your food and on your palate, this will be perfect. Again, it's Cooper Small Batch Hot Sauce Smokin Hot Date. I don't know if anybody can see that because I got a nice little glare. I'm gonna bring it up to close.
There it
There
goes.
you go.
Yeah.
And you got the sexy pink lips on there too. So yeah.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, when I was doing the graphics for this show last night, and the title of this hot sauce made me think of a quote from a movie, and I included it on a graphic, and I'm going to let everybody know as you're watching this show and you're looking at the graphics, if you can guess what movie that quote is from, I'll give that person a special shout out for the next show on a graphic and on the show as well. So pay attention, pause, think about it. I think I'm kind of revealing my age a little bit with the code I used, but I think diehard action fans, who like action movies with women in them, will go like, oh, I know that. So we'll see. Yes, Winston, my dog decided to come visit. Okay, but all right. So first, and as we move forward after the hot sauce and everything, let's talk about the new book you have out recently.
Yeah, it is also something kind of smoking hot.
Oh,
So
oh,
wait,
okay.
let's see. I might have to put it like right in front of my face.
Gonna have
No,
to, because
I'm gonna have
everybody
to
you
turn it off.
see
This is
the
so fun.
Zoom magic that's
It is.
going on
It
there.
is. That's awesome. And I'll turn
Yeah.
off my virtual background. It won't be as pretty for a minute, but it's all good.
Oh, it's
There's-
fine.
It's
It's
it,
fine.
this is the less boring part of Colorado, and yeah. Anyway, so there, but now you can see, and it's no longer flipped. But so a Marines conflict. I
Uh-huh.
co-wrote this with Elle Armstrong, who's a friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been in the Lesfic Slack group for a while together.
Mm-hmm.
And she's one of my beta readers, or more alpha readery. The alpha readers, the people that read as I write and deal
Oh, is
with
that
my.
what you call them?
That's I call them the people who are very gracious and let me bug them whenever I get insecure
Okay, I'm gonna have to
and
call
unsure.
Ian and Amy my alpha readers now. I think they'll like that. Yeah, I think they'll
Yeah,
get a kick out of
totally.
that. Yeah.
Yep. So there's that. And so it all started because I was writing book 3. So this is book 4 in the series, but it can
Mm-hmm.
stand alone. So people
Mm-hmm.
don't have to read anything before this to
Mm-hmm.
start up with this book. But book 3 does require reading at least book 2 first. So book
Okay.
2,
Okay.
yes. So book 2 and 3 follow Cam and Sharon and
Mhm.
their young life together. And while writing the second book of their life, this character Gunny is a person that pops up as a side character and is
Don't
really
you love it when
important.
that happens? Mm-hmm.
Side characters have gone awry in this
Oh
series,
my
and it's
gosh.
lovely. So, as when okay, so Elle was reading, and she was like, "Is Gunny gay? Please tell me Gunny's gay." And I'm like, Gunny is literally just shown up. I haven't thought about Gunny beyond that. But that started the thought process that lasted all of a couple hours before I was like, okay, this could be really fun, especially if I'm not only make Gunny gay, but have Gunny be in a relationship with Cam's future math professor. And so that turned into very quickly this whole long side story. And I realized, though, that they overlap in time, which means they have to be written at the same time, or I'm going to regret things very badly. So I was like, okay, I don't want to delay book 3 very long, but how do I write 2 books at once? I asked Elle if she will co-write it with me. And
okay.
so that's how we solved that first problem. And we set it up in a way that would be a little more interesting. Elle lives in the UK, so we have the math professor be a British expat. And so then we could play on some of those things that are always like so similar yet different. And then it's also Elle is writing more from her experience. I'm focusing more on my experience, and then we just ask a lot of questions with all the overlap and things like that.
That's
and it
interesting.
worked out really well.
Really, I would love to have a co-author someday, but I don't know if that will work out. I don't know if I have the personality, to make that work. I just don't know, because I can be pretty surly, and so especially while I'm writing, so I'm just wondering if I would scare somebody off. And it's just like I just wonder about how the styles would mesh. I mean, I have a pretty particular style.
Yes.
I'm not flowery in the least bit. Not really. I mean, well, no, I'm not. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm really not.
No.
I'm really,
our styles
really not.
are very similar. We are not going into the flowery, fancy, descriptive stuff.
Yes, I
There's
just
a lot
call,
of like.
Yes, I don't go to this long description of things. I'll just say the brown chair is not,
right.
Some big, So I mean, I would worry about how that would mesh with somebody that's maybe a little bit more flowery, and how that will go together. I mean, so I'm just like, I mean, so I don't know. Kudos to you for being able to do that successfully.
The number of times we had that discussion, and the number of times we've sent things to people and said, you know, can you tell the difference? Because in theory, we were going to do it like other people do, which is nice and organized. And one person writes one chapter and then the other person does the other from the other character's point of view. And yeah, except there's nothing organized in my life. And especially while I'm juggling the both books and everything else, everything just flowed together. But in the end, it's still my universe and my world. And so I kind of, it worked for me because I knew I got to have final say, because it had to all match the tone as well of everything. That said, I mean, Elle brought so many great aspects to the story and storytelling, and made it, you know, there are definitely things that like that never would have happened in the book if it weren't for Elle's writing and influence. And you know, people really love the book. And so we made it work in the end. It was hard, and editing was way harder, because then you'd be going through and you have to double check, like, okay, whose chapter are we in? And so because dialogue is one thing, but it's, you know, when you have all the stuff in between the dialogue, that still has to be in the right flavor of the character. Yes. So there'll be British isms and British spellings in Lane's chapters, but they can't be in Mag's chapters. Exactly. And so like, that was so hard. I was constantly just like, why did we do this?
You guys did your own editing?
Well, I mean, even with editors, like you never like, I do a lot of that tweaking and stuff myself too. And so it's like, once the first draft is done, then you go through and just start cleaning it up and smoothing things out. And like, just every step of the way, you have to remember who is doing what, who's, you know, like whose chapter is who. And it's a lot more work but it was definitely worth it. There are some amazing moments in this book that I just adore. And it makes the whole universe, the whole series, just that much more rich. And so it was definitely a fun experience.
You made a comment, you said it's a smoking hot book. So yes, does it go up on a risque scale or something?
Okay, this is a book that I call simultaneously fast and slow burn, because they are in bed by chapter 3 or 2. I don't always keep chapter numbers in, but that sex scene lasts for 2 chapters.
Oh my!
And then there's a lot going on, character-wise. Like, it's setting up a whole lot of dynamics. But then it's supposed to be a fling, but they have a connection, and so then they're trying to figure out, well, Mags can't do a relationship because this is don't ask, don't tell time, and she doesn't want to risk her career. So now they're turning this into a friends with benefits situation. So the relationship part is very slow in developing, even though it's developing right in front of them. They're just refusing to acknowledge it.
Yes.
So it's fast, and then it's very steamy, but it takes a long time to get to where they're willing to admit and change the rules of the relationship and change the priorities in their life.
Really? Okay, cool.
So it was interesting.
I like a good steamy book. I mean, you know, sometimes, you know, I can deal with fade to black. It depends. The one thing I hate though is when there's a lot of buildup and then it goes to fade to black. And I'm just like, what? What? There's no payoff here. Come on. Right. You can't do that. You cannot do that. Yeah. And I get not every writer is good at writing, you know, the love scenes, sex scenes, then love scenes. There's 2 different things. I mean, you know, are not, you know, good at that. I mean, you know, I get it. And when I did fanfic, as a matter of fact, and I have forgotten about this, when I did fanfic way back when I did Xena fanfic, I actually had other bards, as they were called, come to me and have me do their love scenes for them. I had forgotten about that. I mean, so it was always pretty cool. So I would like, read their story or whatever and go like, oh, okay, I got to feel for the characters. And this is what I think will happen in the bedroom. It was a pretty cool. I did that for, I don't even remember who I did it for, but I think I did it for at least 3 or 4 other, fanfic writers. It was kind of fun. It was kind of
That's
fun.
funny. I mean, look, when I started, I had to slam a beer to write the first kiss in Del Segno.
Really?
Yeah, so I come from a very but not repressed in like a purposeful, intentionally harmful way, but I grew up in rural Wisconsin, and sex was not a thing people talked about. Sex was not a thing I was ever comfortable addressing and talking about. And I'm still I couldn't read out loud what I write. At this
Really?
point, I can at least write stuff without other substances to get me through it. But it's not my strong suit. That said, in the past month, I've written 2 bonus sex scenes where that's all it is. And I'm like, what is my life now? It's so weird. But so it's getting better. But yeah, for me though, it really is always I want a sex scene to be a part of the story, right? It needs to be moving the story forward.
Not just erroneous type, just
right.
plug and play, type thing. Yeah, and that's what gets me. That's why I read some erotica, but I only read certain people in erotica because they do an excellent job of moving the story along at the same time, like Megan O'Brien.
Right.
Who's able to do that. Not every erotica writer is able to do that. And it's just like, okay, this is getting tiring. Okay, I mean, I'm just like, but she's able to, Elle Brooks is really good with that too. So, yeah.
Have you read,
to you ladies? Yeah.
Yeah. Have you read TJ Dallas's book
No,
series?
I've been wanting
to. You have to. So
what's the name of it? A Bard's, what's the name of it?
So she's got it's the first trilogy is based on Pride. So it's I can't even remember now the name of the books. I am so sorry. I have beta read book 2 and 3 already. And so
you don't remember
for me,
the name of the books?
Oh well, because they're all in my head right now, and now I'm getting them all twisted up. But if you look up TJ Dallas, that's her thing. So it's they're all based on the 7 deadly sins, and it is a really fascinating premise. The characters are really cool. The sex is varied and ridiculously hot. And it's funny because now TJ with last the first sex scene that I already put out it's on my website for people who want to read it, and that's a Cam and Sharon bonus. I sent it to TJ, and TJ helped me tweak a few spots, and now I'm just like, okay, you're gonna help me edit every single sex scene I write from now on because you because you're good at it for one, and TJ has been helping me note where I kind of shy away because I know I still have a propensity to shy away from some things and pull back a little bit. And if I'm going to be doing this, I just need to be kind of all in with it. So, so TJ gets some bonus credit for steaming up.
Okay. I'm going to put her on my list. I'm going to put her on my list, definitely.
Book 2 just released, and then book 3, I don't know when it'll be ready, but I mean, it's already pretty, I read a final-ish version, so she's just editing and stuff like that.
I love reading different, things that are a little bit different because I get kind of tired of the romance formula sometimes in the reading. I mean, Lord knows I don't always go with formula when I write, but somehow particular parts fit into it, But I don't like reading it all the time. I mean, I don't like anything that's too sweet or, I'm just like, oh, God, I can't. Yeah. I mean, So yeah, okay. So I got another author to put on my list. And I keep telling everybody, everybody's stuff needs to be on audiobook. It just needs to be
TJ's first book is on audio. I don't know if it's quite available yet, but it will be. With a Scottish or someone reader, so there'll be a lovely accent, I think, and The
Okay.
challenge with audiobooks, and you know this, is especially now with the way Audible has made it, where we
Yeah.
don't make money off of the promo codes, it's really hard to get a good narrator if you don't have money to pay for someone, because they're not
That's
going to make
true.
it back very much. So
That's true. I would
I don't
say
know.
that's one of the things I like about being with a publisher. I mean,
Yes.
because they do negotiate, all that stuff. I mean, and thank God for Dope Road Books. I mean, they negotiated a quite hefty contract. I mean, for Big Girl Pill, and I was like,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, so yeah, that's the part where I'm very thankful, for to have that, kind of the middleman there, to help with
Yep.
things. But I had Amanda Radley, and she was, because she knows everything.
Right. She pretty much
She
does.
knows
Yes.
everything. So we were talking one day, and she was like, I told her I was thinking about doing an audiobook, and she says, you can crowdsource it. And I was like, what? And so she explained to me this process of getting it crowdsourced, to where, as an independent author, you won't be spending a lot of money. And I was like, holy crap, she knows everything. So I mean,
Yeah.
and I try to tell everybody, okay, I don't remember exactly what she told me, but I can ask her and get back to you about it, because it just sounds like she's like she has her finger on the point there, to be able to tell everything.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I mean, audiobooks are like to me, they're a big boom now in Lesfic. I think they sell really, really well, really well. So
Yeah. I mean, it's always tricky. I think it's easier too if you have a good back catalog, which you do.
yeah,
Then it makes it a lot easier.
yeah, yeah,
Because when you're
definitely.
newer, it's like it still
That's
takes
true.
time for people to kind of get into it. But more and more people are getting into it. We get more people joining like the lesbian audiobooks Facebook group all the time, and
Hmm.
that's a great place for people, because almost all of my reading is through audiobooks at this point, because if
Hmm.
I don't have time to sit and read an actual book.
Me too. I mean, and I drive, like, even though with the pandemic and everything, I'm only going to the office on weekends, but I drive a hour and 45 minutes to get to the
Mm,
office. So I
that
like
is
to
so far.
have something on in the car, for that drive there and back. And while I'm at the office, I'm alone. So I have it playing, as I'm working, doing whatever. I like listening to them around the house. I really don't have the time to just sit there and have to be stationary to read. And then someone's like, oh man, y'all got to get this on audiobook. I mean, you have
Yep.
to. So yeah, I mean, and that's why my list is so long of things I have to read. And when I'm actively writing, it's
Yeah.
very difficult for me to read. It's
Yeah.
it's
It's impossible.
yeah, it's like I don't want anything to bleed into what I'm writing. I mean, I don't think that will happen, but just in case, and I want to make sure my own ideas stay my own ideas. I mean,
Yep.
like I'll read fanfic in a hot minute when I'm writing.
Hmm.
But as far as other books, it's very difficult. So I said I'm gonna try to read off genre as I'm going through this book to see if I can do that. And I haven't started that yet, but I'm gonna try to see if I can do it. I mean, just read something completely different and see if I can do it that way.
Yeah. It's interesting for me. As long as I'm not reading something that's too close to the theme, it's okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but what I found is I have to be really selfish about quality, because
Hmm.
if the prose um, isn't good enough, and I'm not saying
Hmm.
that as a judgment, but like if it's not high enough caliber in writing style, then it
Hmm.
drags my writing down. And I'm
Ah,
like, I can't be a worse writer, damn it. I need to get better. So
yeah.
I've had to get really selfish about what I'm reading, where I
Hmm.
probably would have read it and still liked the book before I started reading. Now
Hmm.
I just can't afford to read it.
Yeah.
And, I still will support people on their path, but I can't necessarily read all, everyone's stuff. It all
Yeah.
depends. I mean, so, and it was interesting too. I was talking to, like, last year when we could have pride events and stuff. I met Jamie Clevinger. That is
Hmm.
probably not how she pronounces her name, and I apologize. But she said that what she does when she's stuck is she reads poetry. And that
Really?
actually helps her, like, and I was like, that's really interesting. Like, because I could see how that could work, like getting into like a completely different type of,
Huh.
creativity. And so, because it gets your brain going, but it's not in the same format. So you're not likely to steal any of it unintentionally.
Uh-huh.
So, and
That's
I bet
interesting.
music would be very similar that way too, then, if you're paying attention to lyrics, and I do a
Yeah,
lot. So
that's interesting. I usually, do you get blocked a lot, or are you one of those people who can write all the way through and not be bothered?
I blocks are basically just whenever I have gone the wrong way, or I just
Okay.
have kept writing in a scene when it shouldn't have kept going. Like I just missed the end and kept going and went, oh, that's boring. I'm bored. Why am I writing this? Then I have to back up. Sometimes I need to brainstorm with people because it's more of issue of like finding which of the three options is the right way to go. So, but like the past about 2 weeks, I've been really frustrated and annoyed because I hit kind of this weird transition point in the book I'm writing. And I'm in a screenwriting program. And the screenwriting program, I need to be getting my stuff done with my outline and stuff. And I realized that I had made a horrible mistake and misunderstood something that I based my entire movie around. And so I had to go back, do a ridiculous amount of research. I've been talking to some people. I finally was like, okay, I finally get it. But it was like I had to start back, not quite from square one, but it felt pretty dang square one-ish.
Oh,
and
wow.
so not being able to like just sit down and write sucked. It helped to write the first bonus scene, but that was the only thing I wrote the whole week. And I was like, this is not okay. Finally, I found enough direction with the movie that I could sit down and rework at least act one and get some feedback. And then this morning I brainstormed with one of my screenwriting buddies, and he gave me some great questions and ideas. So it was like, okay, cool. I've hit that. I added it's only like 2 paragraphs to the book, but I am hey, any paragraph is a good paragraph.
Yes, exactly.
And so I was like, it's progress. It's got me thinking a little bit. It was also at the same time when I was so the new book, which I'm planning to submit to Ilva. So it's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's part
Good
of me
for
elevating
you.
my prose is letting Jay kick my ass. So
yeah, and she does. I've had her as a line editor and a copy editor before, I think. So yeah, definitely.
Yes, I've discussed it with her. I was like, I need you to be able to kick my ass on more than just chapter 1, which she's been very gracious in looking over my chapter 1s on a couple books now. But the only way to do that is to be signed with Ilva. And the only way to do that was to have a standalone. Well, I haven't had a standalone until now. So I'm finally going to have something I could submit to them. But in the book, I'm reincarnating Cam and Sharon, because in my Marine series, Sharon dies, not in the books. That will never happen in the books. And they've been together for like 15 years when she dies. So it's not any time even like close to these. But it was the backstory that needed to happen. It was very cathartic for me because it's based on some things that happened in my life. I mean, not exactly, but enough of it. So it was very cathartic, but also like people were like, why can't we get a happy ending for them? And I'm like, well, since book 5 is planned to bring this all full circle, I really can't even do like a fake alternate ending. And it didn't feel authentic. I was like, I can reincarnate them. And then they get a whole second life to be all happy and whatever.
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
It's fun to do a slow burn soulmate story.
That's interesting. Okay. So now, hold on now. Yeah. If she didn't die in the, sometimes
I can't not have her die. Like it's just not.
But okay, but listen, hold on a second. Just because she dies somewhere in the future, and readers may know that, doesn't mean there's not a happy ending.
Oh, I agree. Oh, I totally agree. And that's the thing. Like I feel like there's all this great stuff that happens in their life together. And how many people even have a 15-year relationship to begin with?
Men.
just because, like I did, right? But a lot of people, they've never even had that.
Yeah.
Their relationship ended for other reasons. So it's not like I've cut them tragically short. I mean, it's tragic, but it's not, I don't know. Like, I mean, and they're still young. I mean, they were in their 30s. They meet when they're 18 and 19. I mean, so they're babies. But everyone knows she dies because the first book is what happens in the future relative to all these books.
Oh, okay.
So there's no way around
so they're viewing that as like, oh, no.
Right. They're like, but I don't want this to be true. Like, Cam, just wake up and it be a bad dream. And I'm like, no, like, I can't. Like, I hate that. But
I like that you did that, though. I like
reincarnate them. And now what's fun is I get to play around with the readers will figure out who they are. They won't know exactly who they are because they're having overlapping lives. And that is definitely a rule about overlapping lives with reincarnation. Like, you can't know your other you. It would get messy probably. So
that'll be good to play with that, though. Yeah.
Oh, I'm having a blast. And what's cool is like you get to see how there are some core parts of their personalities that are kind of there. And yet there's like Cam is introverted, autistic, shy, not super confident and stuff in these series. In this, she's reincarnated. Now her name is Cade. She's not shy in the least. She's a guitarist. She's a songwriter, and all of that. Like, and wants to be a rock star. Like the total opposite in many ways of Cam. But there's that musical aspect that's still there. Like, and it's really cool. But I've also been shooting myself in the foot because now I'm having to write songs, and so like I'm simultaneously like studying some of my favorite songwriters and trying to like write better and better songs that fit with the book. It's just like, this is why I haven't written much in like 2 weeks.
So wait a minute, are you writing songs to go into the book?
Yeah,
are you
totally.
Really?
Yeah, they're written into the story. And so like, even like I wrote in like when I would get stuck, then I'd be like, Kate is getting stuck because she's, like, and like writing all of that in there in this whole process. And yeah, it's letting it be kind of an allegory for like just different parts of her, where she's at with being open versus being closed off. But I'm also thinking like, if I then format it for a movie in the future, it would be cool if the songs were good enough for someone to actually put them to music. And so I want them to be good and not just okay. Plus, I mean, who's going to believe Cade could make it if the songs aren't very good? So yeah, I'm like trying to learn songwriting while I'm trying to learn how to write movies, while I'm trying to write this book. And it's like,
let's talk about the difference right quick. What is the difference between writing a novel and writing a screenplay?
With a novel, no one is giving me a time limit. If I want to take 400 pages to tell a story, I can, as long as it's engaging. You can't do that with a movie. I mean, even like epic movies, like the people only have so much patience for them, and there needs to be a really good reason for them to go over an hour 40, right? Yes. So you can't just sit down and pants a freaking movie, or you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So in this program, and in case anyone is a veteran and watching this and is interested maybe in learning about writing movies or TV shows, the Writers Guild Foundation has this program every year. It's the Veteran Writings Project, and it's amazing. It is so phenomenal and is absolutely worth applying for, because that's what I'm in right now. So
wow, okay.
We've been learning like about crafting stories and stuff. Right now, we're finally getting to writing an outline. They don't want us writing any scenes or anything until the outline is solid. I don't outline anything. I don't outline jack shit when I'm writing books.
Me either. I do notes here and there, but I've never outlined a book. I've never done that.
I couldn't do it. I know I couldn't, because everything impacts what comes next. So I can't even write out of sequence, really. It's pretty tough without there being major changes anyway. But with the movie, you kind of have to. At the same time, a movie script is all of 110 pages. So you don't have time. Well, okay, think about all the stuff you don't like to write. Colors of chairs and rooms and crap like that. None of that's in there. You know, so there's a lot of things that aren't written
Oh,
in a
okay.
movie script, so that cuts it down a lot. So in
Uh-huh.
that way, it's awesome. All the
Oh,
stuff I don't
okay.
like to do, I don't have to do. And yet I have to, like, every scene has to be like really planned out, and you really have to hit the emotions harder.
Uh-huh.
You need much bigger ups and downs. Otherwise, it's the movie's too flat, and just there will be people that like it, but it won't do as well. And since I'm writing books that are with underrepresented characters,
Uh-huh.
I want the movies to be seen by as many people as possible,
Uh-huh.
assuming I can even sell them, right? So there's just, it's like everything's tighter,
Uh-huh.
and there's not much room to just figure things out as you go.
Is it
So
dialogue heavy?
it's mine is well, it depends on the movie too. So this movie is actually it's an action, well, sports movie with a lesbian romantic subplot,
Oh.
with but the main protagonist is a 17-year-old trans girl, and they're
Oh.
snowboarders. So
Okay.
there's a lot of snowboarding action, but then there's
Uh-huh.
there'll be definitely a lot of dialogue in
Uh-huh.
sections too, but it's like, it like breaks it up between action heavy and then dialogue-y things and just teens being teens and fun. And then it gets really crappy in the middle, and I just wrote the middle and made myself all sad today because
Oh.
I had to break them all, and it was sucked. So now I have
Oh.
to figure out how to make them happy again.
Do you find, like, since it's, do you find that so the book and you've read some of the book I'm working
Yes.
on.
Yes. I can't wait.
So I'm finding now my books have always been dialogue heavy, but
Yeah.
this one right here is extremely dialogue heavy. Do you feel like in writing the movie you're working on, do you in do you hit those emotions, and do you have to use the dialogue and everything to do that, to tell that story?
No.
How do you do that?
That's the cool part with movies. You have the visuals that you don't have
Uh-huh.
to write it, right?
Okay.
So when things are crashing down for Faith, the main character, it's going to be a lot of body language, and it's her like isolating, and you can do that
Okay.
with visuals that you don't have to do in a book. Whereas, so like if I were doing that as a novel, I would probably be finding a lot more ways to work in dialogue, or,
Uh-huh.
you know, because you can show so much more with dialogue, I feel like,
Uh-huh.
than exposition. I mean, so my stuff's always dialogue heavy as well. My books are very dialogue focused because I feel like that's where the fun is that interplay and
Me
that.
too. Me too.
So
Hold on. Let me close my office door because my wife is home and my dogs are going nuts.
they're like, ah,
I'm like, oh, mommy's home.
yep, exactly.
So, okay,
Yeah,
so that's interesting. I mean, it was just, and I have to say, I'm enjoying the change with all the dialogue. I mean, and it's, I was just like, wow. I mean, I thought my other stuff was that way. So it's good to know there's another writer out there that ends
yeah,
up doing that. I mean, because it is the fun part. To me,
yeah,
it's how the
totally.
characters get to know each other, and it moves the story along more organically, because they're getting to know each other, and you're getting to learn about them as well. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was interesting because I found myself today, though, outlining scene where rather than Faith making an argument, it's Ripley, the love interest, and her parents are like arguing between each other, but
mhm.
to Ripley, like, so like she's watching the argument play out in front of her instead of her making any of the argument. And
Oh,
so it's
okay.
just like, that's what's so interesting about just writing, I think anything, honestly, is like when you discover a different way for it to present itself, and you can see underneath why that's better. And
Mhm.
even like this morning discussing, well, does Faith find out that someone outed her as trans when she's already off by herself, or because they're going to an airport and she's going back
Mhm.
home to Canada, and Faith and Ripley lives in Colorado. And so, but it's like, oh, but if they figure it out, if this all crashes down when they're at the airport, you have this visual, literal separating of them
Mhm.
that adds to the emotional rift that just happened. So it's all those little things that go into telling a story just that much better, that takes the story from just interesting
Mhm.
to really engaging.
Mm-hmm.
And that just makes me super happy when that stuff happens.
So like when you put in those little moments, is there something you write on the script that hints at that visual, you know? Is there
Yeah.
something you write on? Okay.
Yeah, you could put some of that stuff in. And honestly, the structure of writing a screenplay makes my head hurt still. I don't like I look at them, I go, okay, that makes sense. Then I go to do mine and I'm like, what do I do? It's like a total blank. It's so weird.
It's like you see that example and you're like, okay, I get it. And then you're like,
yeah.
What the fuck? What?
Yeah, the blank page is just like,
Yeah.
no, you know.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know. So yeah, like there's definitely things you put in there, you know, to just get a feel for what that shot even looks like. But you also, as the writer with an initial script, don't put too much in, because that's kind of someone else's job. Like that's the director, and even the actors, right? Like if an actor can't figure out the tone from what you wrote, either write it different so it's more obvious, so you're showing it, or you could put in a little note to make it clear.
Okay.
And even right now in the outline, like my outline is total chaos. It'll be like summary, then I'll throw in random dialogue that I think is important, or is just for me to feel out the scene, because that's part of the pantsing thing, right? Like until you actually write the two characters interacting, it's this vague thing. But once they actually start saying words, that makes the next step a lot clearer. But otherwise, it's this vague thing of like, oh, well, some stuff happens.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. I mean, like, what if one of the characters says something stupid? That can open up a whole nother can of worms that's useful to play with going forward. So.
Okay, I like, you know, I always said, I was talking to Andy Marquette, like, I think we talked about this last year or something like that. And we were talking about, man, I mean, how there's nothing on TV, you know, that's representative of our community. Not really, you know, and that, you know, oh man, you know, how we could get together and write something so much better than what's out there. I like the idea that you're actually doing that. And I think more of us should be doing it, if you ask me. I mean, you know, I think if you're a talented writer, period, you're a talented writer. You know what I mean? So I applaud you for kind of, you know, going in that direction, because I think we do need more representation from ourselves. I mean, you know, instead of, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, yes, there's some, like those two movies that are coming out, the one with Kate Winslet, and I saw something else. I don't know. I can't remember the name of this, another period movie or whatever. And I mean, you know, the complaints were, you know, and I don't know if the Kate Winslet movie is directed by a man or written by a man. I don't know. I mean, you know, I haven't done enough research on that. But the complaint was about this movie, you know, that when are we gonna get, you know, a lesbian themed movie that's good, written by a lesbian? I mean, you know, or bisexual or transsexual, you know, whatever it's about, you know, it goes back to us being able to write our own stories. I mean, you know, yes, I'm happy to see some representation out there, but it does bother me. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say a straight white guy can't write a lesbian and make it good. It's possible. That is possible. When we know it is, because we've seen some of these movies. I mean, you know, so, but I'm sorry, my wife's outside. I was trying to figure out what she's doing. So, I mean, but I think it's time, you know, for us to be able to, yes, Finn, be outside Hollywood, so to speak. I'm busy, Finny. Be outside Hollywood and be able to do our thing and bring it to the community. I mean, because I think we've shown that we're hungry, you know, for that kind of thing. We want to spend our money on things that, you know, reflect us. I mean, you know, so, you know, what's it, Winona Earp aside. I mean, you know,
Hey now.
Well,
I know you're not as big a fan.
I'm not, and I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know. Maybe after I know this, maybe after the season is over, I'll go back and rewatch it and try to.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm just like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
My thing is, I don't want to watch movies without a happy ending. It doesn't even have to be a romance. I
Thank
just want a
you.
happy ending. And
Thank
so
you.
like that's why this movie, my goal is that it's not written just for the queer community. It's something that everyone can relate to. I think everyone can relate to not getting a fair shot at things, to having obstacles put in their way for no good reason. I think that's something a lot of people can relate to. And then even like the other movies that I want to do, like I would love to adapt Lee Winter's Shattered into a movie.
Oh yeah, that would be
Oh,
interesting.
good.
Yeah,
It's so good.
I did the sensitivity read for that book. It's very yeah.
It's such a great book. It's not a romance.
No, not at all.
It hits so many unfortunately timely issues still. And it's conveniently located in just like one or two locations, which is great for filmmaking.
Yeah.
And you get people of color, you get queer people, you get superheroes, which people love, you get addressing social issues.
Yes.
And it's like there's so many things in it. And I even found someone yesterday. I was like, oh my God, I think she would be perfect for Shatter Girl. And I was just
really?
Like, I think I retweeted the thing on Twitter because she's an action person. The video I shared, I think, is her doing. Maybe I didn't share it. I'll share some videos otherwise, because she was using a sword to cut fruit, but in real life, not like the video game. And she has amazing videos on her Twitter. So I was just like, oh my God, you're amazing.
Who I always had a vision of Shatter Girl is Lupita.
Yeah.
I just, the way she described her, will you stop saying I'm busy? I was like, oh, and she's that's the vision I got of her. But yeah, I think that would be very different. It
would be a very good movie. I mean, now rewriting a book for film is always hard. Because I mean, even like you look at, I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook is 6 hours, right? You get an hour and a half for a movie. You have to, like, there's obviously things that would never be in there to begin with, but there are some scenes where you have to go, what's the actual purpose? How can we show that faster and different and in a different scene so that we can get this condensed and get into the bulk of the movie? But that's the first one I want to play with adapting, because it is already such a really streamlined book. Like it's focused, and so it could be really fun. And so even if and ultimately, even with that, like I look at it as any author that wants to try working on this, right? Adapting their own stories to screenplays and stuff. If I can help in any way, I will. And from beta reading and the script and stuff to, whatever connections I'm making, I don't plan on being an island. I'm going to try to pull in as much as I can, get as many other stories out there so that we have things to watch, because I'm sick of there not being things to watch. I mean,
or not having a happy ending, for Christ's sakes. I mean, I would think we're past the time where, a lesbian or a lesbian woman and a bisexual woman walk off in the sunset. One goes a different way. I mean, it's okay. Or the crazy lesbian or the crazy bisexual, or I think at this point in time, give it a rest. And I think that's why, that is why everybody loved Gentleman Jack so much. I mean, don't get me wrong, the classism and everything that's in there, how snobby she was, that was a detriment. But the ending of that first season, where it was pretty much, them walking away, on a sunset. I mean, together. I mean, so, and that's what we want. It was a big, sweeping, epic type ending for that first season, so it was just like, it was a breath of fresh air, considering we know what happened to those two if you read the history. I mean, so. So yeah, it was refreshing, to see that. I mean, so it's realism now, where before, like what was that book that recently came out? Not The Secret. The one where
Oh,
they
the bees
completely
one?
changed it, huh?
Yeah, the bees one. I,
Yes,
I
where they
don't remember.
completely changed the
Yeah.
ending.
Yeah, I haven't watched that. I also haven't read the book yet, but I just haven't had time. But yeah, why would you,
Why would you
why?
do that? Why? I mean,
You know why? It's because 90% of Hollywood is run by white straight guys.
yes,
That is
yes.
why.
And it
And
adds drama, I
yep,
know, but
and
still.
that's crap. So what's good though, and something I'm noticing is that yes, there's still going to be a huge part of Hollywood that's that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now you've got women who are finding their way to get the money they need, and they're using the power that they're finally eking out to
Mm-hmm.
make the movies that they want, and to
Yes.
make movies that are just better in general. Um,
Yes. Eh,
I mean, I responded to a tweet where there was a list of like 20 queer, female, or non-binary like directors, producers, something, right, that you should know in
uh-huh.
Hollywood. And I was just like, I'm saving this because I'm in the screenwriting program and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to want to know who to talk to later. One
Mm-hmm.
of them DM'd me and asked if I had any scripts. There are people,
Wow.
they are hungry for something different. And like, she's a legit filmmaker. I've looked at up her
Wow.
stuff and she's done some really cool stuff. Now, I'm not remotely ready. And I said, I will let you know when I have something and if there's anything else that I find and come
Uh-huh.
across that might be of interest. But I think we have so many more tools to make films and to make films available to people. We don't have to go through all of the same old gatekeepers.
Yes.
So all we need to
Exactly.
do is find our niche and our people.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've got people like, I have no problem trying to approach people like Angela Robinson has made some amazing films
Mm-hmm.
across the whole gamut. Oh, jeepers, no, I just forgot her name. The woman that made Booksmart.
Oh, Olivia something.
Yes, Olivia Wilde.
Yes. I love that movie. Yes.
Yeah, so it's like, there's these women that are like keep working their way up and they're making their own way and that are
Mm-hmm.
doing stuff that's really different and that can make a good movie. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about it even fitting like their genre or anything. So it's like I feel like it's almost easier having this bit of a niche than it is if you're just writing yet another action movie
Yeah.
or yet another horror
Yeah.
movie or just even a regular sports movie.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely different and
Mm-hmm.
things are changing and that might be to our benefit. So I feel like in the next few years, if we could start getting more of like the best stories that we have out there
Mm-hmm.
converted into screenplays,
Oh my
we could
God, I
have
would love to
amazing
see that. I mean, there's so
stuff.
many books I've read that I would love to see on a big screen. I mean, so, and I can't even imagine. Oh,
Yeah. I
it would
mean,
be
like
so great.
Big Girl Pill and what's coming next, they're
Hmm.
awesome, hilarious, and they'd be so much fun,
A nice little romantic comedy with a little
Yeah,
edge to, yeah, yeah.
I think there's a lot of room for stuff like that. And then I'm also thinking of like, I don't see myself, I don't see like my Marine series being very easy to put into a film format.
Hmm.
And I don't think it matches very well. But like the one that I'm writing now, absolutely. And actually I was even thinking like the other day now, I was like, you know what, maybe Rising from Ash would work okay as a screenplay. Not really sure. Um, Plus, I have a very silly romantic comedy that actually was the idea I had originally, but then the
Hmm.
snowboarding movie came to me in a dream and it's taken over. So like I still have a
Don't you
romantic
love it when
comedy.
that happens?
Oh my God, they were so cute though. I was like, oh, please keep coming in
It'll
my
if
dreams.
it's meant to happen, it will come back to you.
Oh, and it was more that I just wanted that they needed to tell me more of their damn story because they
Hmm.
jumped. The story that came into like the dream was like the end of their relationship. Like I'm like, what? No, I need to know who you are and how you met. And like I got to. Don't give me the 3/4 point in the movie. You're not
Oh.
helpful, guys. And now it's still changed so much. But I mean, it was enough to, you know, the dreams sometimes are just enough to keep you hooked on it, the idea,
Hmm.
and so you start formulating it and now, you know, who knows what'll all end up in there, but
Yeah,
you know, it's
yeah.
like,
That's the
but yeah,
fun part. That
it
is the fun
is.
part. Yeah,
But
it
it's the
really and truly
impatient
is.
part.
Yeah.
I just get really impatient with them, and I'm like,
I
yes,
do. You just want to, I mean, you know, you once you start writing and you know things have kind of like cemented and you know like you just want to get to those good juicy parts
yeah,
and for and for it all to just shine and come together and you do get impatient and I mean you know
yeah,
and I think that's one of my pitfalls as well is that sometimes I jump ahead and you know I try to get to this point without filling it in. So I mean
yeah.
at times I have to kind of sit back and say, okay, but how did it get from point A to C? I mean there's got to be
Right.
a B in the middle somewhere.
Yep. And that's where
So
alpha
yeah.
readers are really handy, where they can go,
Yes.
you know, and that's even like, as I was, my screenwriting friend, he used read scripts a lot, like for
Hmm.
contests and stuff. So he's really good at like just structure. And so, and what's great is he's a cis white guy who's like just ridiculous, like a great ally and
Hmm.
super amazing. And so he was just like, oh, what about this and this and this? I'm like, oh, what's the purpose of those scenes? Because I was like, I need, because everything has to have a purpose. And he's like, oh, all the purpose has to be is just showing where they start, right? So sometimes it's like you want to jump into the meat and you don't
Hmm.
give people the context
Hmm.
or where the character's starting from. You're not
Hmm.
grounding them in their reality. It's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So then I was like, okay, now, because it's really easy to overthink it when you're trying
Hmm.
to be too streamlined in order to do
Hmm.
the movie
Hmm.
thing versus the book thing. And I
Hmm.
will say I usually have a pretty good intuition where I'll be reading and then go, whoa, that just jumped. And then I have to go back and start filling it in
Hmm.
and can feel it out. But sometimes you can't tell until you get through all the way through that
Yeah.
first draft. And then
Yeah.
you have to feel where the pacing just goes way off
Hmm.
base. And because sometimes the betas are too nice and
They are, and you
they're too
know,
forgiving.
and that's
I love
why I
them.
use the same people. They don't mind telling me, you know, what this doesn't make sense. You know, you need to do like I was reading, going through a new kind of drug, and Anne had put a note on a Rachel scene, and she's like, Rachel. She said, "This Rachel is not this mean. You know, she wouldn't do that. You know." And you know, and I thought about it, and I was like, you know. You're right. You're right. She's upset, but no, she would not just be a total, you know, like, oh, meanie like that. So I was like, you're
Yeah.
right. Okay, I went back and changed it. So it's good to have those alpha readers, you know,
Yes.
that are okay with just telling you, okay, this doesn't make sense, or this sucks, or this doesn't track at all. I don't know what you're thinking. I mean, you
Right.
know, so it's good to have those, and it's good to. This has been one of the best conversations. Thank you for coming and being here. We've been talking for
A
almost
long
an
time
hour.
accidentally,
Yeah. So
so
this is good.
whoops.
So I don't apologize, everybody, because I think this is a really good episode of Girl on Fire, you know, hot sauce aside, you know. So,
But we can make
but
some hot stories coming out before too
yep,
long.
there
That's
you
always the
go. There
goal.
you go.
So,
But Jax, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. And you have to come back if you develop more of any of your projects. I love to have you back.
we'll find a hotter hot sauce. I'm sure my wife will find something else and be like, you can handle this, and then
Yeah, because
we'll
this
try
one
to
was not hot at all. I mean, you know,
do.
right. So next week, everybody, I'm going to have Lola Keeley and Serena J. Bishop is going to come back as well. So a couple of big shows planned. I don't have the hot sauce that I'm going to do next week to show you because it's coming from the UK, and hopefully I'll have it before I do the recording with Lola. So, and she's going to do the same hot sauce. But it sounds really interesting. Maybe if I can find a picture of it, I'll throw it up on a graphic when I edit this show. So, but those are my next a couple of guests. So stay tuned. And again, Jax, thanks for you know making this show so interesting, and I learned a lot, and I enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks. Yeah, I always like bugging you and talking to you. I always love your
I know.
books, and like there's a lot of overlap in like the type of characters you write or the type of characters I like to read about. So it always works out.
It's yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that because you don't hear that a lot. I'm the type of writer where people either love the characters or they're just scratching their head and like, ew, why does she talk like that? And and they're I don't know because real people talk like that. I mean,
Right, exactly. Like clearly you don't know people like my wife. So
yes, exactly, or my wife. I
right,
mean,
like,
she looks when you look at her, she's like all sweet looking and everything, but she'll drop an F-bomb in a minute, and I'm just like, oh, you're such a fucking lady, but that's neither here nor there, people. You seen her on a Girl on Fire before, but she's quite saucy, as you guys all know.
Yep.
So, okay, so let me wrap this show up, everybody. Yep. Happy Sunday. I will see you again next week. And the show with Lola Keeley will actually not be on a Sunday. It'll be in the middle of the week. So there's going to be a nice little extra going on there. So I'm excited about that as well. We're going to talk about her new book that just came out that looks really good. Have you read anything by her before?
Oh, I'm trying to remember now. I know I haven't read the new one, but it looks really cool though. My problem is I've read so many books that sometimes I forget. Like
I know, right? She has a gift for dialogue. She has a gift for great snarky dialogue, and that's why I like her. So and she
I've read Major Surgery at least, and that was good.
Yeah. So, Music in the Mirror was good.
Yeah, they're on my list. Slammed is in Hoopla, so for people who have like their library stuff, like if you have Hoopla, always check there because there's a ton of Lesfic audiobooks in there thanks to Tantor Audio. And so so Slammed has been on my list because I'm always a sucker for sports romance.
And I didn't know I liked those, but I've listened to the one by Cheyenne, and I really liked that one. Yeah, so I was like, I didn't know. Yeah, and I did a sensitivity read for Elise Mateague's new book that's coming out. It was really good. The one with hockey in it.
Oh, I haven't seen it one yet.
People are gonna like it. Yeah,
nice.
It's really good. It's really different from the other stuff she's written. So, cool. So I think people are gonna like it. Okay, nice. But let's wrap up, guys. I will see you next week again. And again, thank you, Jax, for joining me. Everybody have a good rest of the weekend.